So the economic projections is what the Fed puts out as sort of their forward guidance and lets analysts and economists know what to expect in the future. The most important things that I look at are GDP. So if the Fed's expecting a 0.4% increase to GDP this year, that's not good. Low GDP expectations, and then even through 2024, very weak GDP expectations. We look at, this is the emergency right here. This is why I think the markets will end up going bearish in the next 2 days. The Fed funds rate, the December projection, so by the end of this year, they're still expecting the Fed funds rate to be at 5.1. The majority of the market is sort of expecting the Fed to pivot on their monetary policy at some point if we go into a recession. So they're expecting by the end of the year, higher for longer is still their strategy. That's bearish for the stock market and bullish for the dollar in the long term. This is why you guys have to understand the difference between short-term price action and the longer-term like trend. So this is going to play itself out in maybe a week or 2 weeks. This is going to end up moving in the bearish direction for the stock market. So bearish news, not good. Let's see what Powell says to kind of calm the markets down. Reminders for everybody for news trading. Number one, you don't actually have to take a trade. If you don't see opportunities, if you don't want to put your money at risk, then just observe. There's going to be a great learning opportunity regardless. Don't feel the need to pressure yourself into taking a trade. Number one. Number two, risk management is key. If you over leveraged, you're going to get margin called during news. If you have tight stop losses and you're playing conservative, you will get your stop losses hit. So reduce your risk, give the markets room to breathe, and then wait for the right opportunity. So be highly selective and be highly patient. Those are the main tips for news trading. Mo says, did you notice anything regarding the bank's collapse in the statement? No. The thing is, I doubt that Jerome Powell is going to mention it. Janet Yellen came out and did a statement yesterday so that he doesn't have to. You guys see that like the last 90 minutes before the news came out, they put it on the economic calendar. She got on and she talked about the banking crisis. And so Powell's most likely just going to talk about inflation and he's going to say higher for longer. I think he takes a neutral tone. And so we could end up going bullish for the rest of the session if he doesn't say anything inflammatory. If he tiptoes around it, no one asks him any hard questions, he doesn't say anything too crazy, he keeps saying data dependent, then the markets are going to fly for the rest of the session off of the relief, and then we can short during London.
Hey, Rory, not exactly a question, just like kind of a comment regarding what you mentioned earlier. I was all with you all, since the beginning of the year, but I'm starting to switch my projection for the year. I think we're going to start seeing a little more bullishness because they started printing money. It looks like we're seeing the highs for the funds rate. So you might see a little bit of bearishness temporarily, but it seems like overall the worst already happened. Like you said, we're not seeing anything that's shocking. So if the market doesn't see anything that is out of the ordinary, or they're not doing anything not priced in already, then yeah, we're going to see big shifts. But so far, they're kind of like right where everybody wants them to be.
I 100% agree. The thing is, everything is good until it's not.
Correct. So as long as we don't get anything like any major collapse, the funny part in the statement is they say they're trying to reduce their balance sheet.
Brother, that's bullshit. We all know that's bullshit. The Silicon Valley Bank collapse, what ended up happening is that there was duration mismatch between these assets, and the pressure was caused because of the higher interest rates. Higher interest rates brought down the value of those bonds, which created that massive squeeze. When people found out about that squeeze, they started pulling money out, which caused the bank collapse. What we need right now, especially to not let this become a contagion, is to not put more pressure on interest rates, because this could end up bleeding into the pension markets and make this an even bigger problem. So I do think that this is a massive danger to the markets that he did continue to raise rates, even though like realistically, and the only way to get ourselves out of this banking collapse situation right now is either print money or lower rates. So if he's going to keep rates higher for longer, they're about to start printing money. So either he's lying about wanting to reduce the value of the balance sheet, or he's lying about the higher for longer. And which one do you think it is?
Plays a vital role in supporting the savings and credit needs of households and businesses.
I was expecting a bit of a dip, but there's a pretty good chance that this thing hits the lows, like this region down here at the 101s, 102s, and it continues to push bullish. I'm not entirely convinced that the dollar's flipping bearish. I'm not entirely convinced, but for the short term, it does look like the dollar is going to continue to the downside. So let's keep an eye on this and let's see how the press conference goes.
The median projection for real GDP growth stands at just 0.4% this year and 1.2% next year, well below the median estimate.
How that's bullish for the stock market, I will not understand. 1% GDP growth projections for the next 3 years? Really? We all know the Powell candle. When he speaks, they buy it up. Everybody starts pumping. And then depending on what he says, this thing could end up reversing. And then now we just had a massive liquidity grab through the zone. So everybody who was trying to short prematurely got crushed. And then I think the true direction is going to end up being bearish. That's just my take on this. So this is where we'll be looking to take shorts. 32,575. I see some of you guys behind the screen reaching for your phone to try and chase the markets. Do not chase the sells. Wait for the higher entry. I have not entered yet. Just a heads up. I have not entered the trade yet. Keep saying inflation. Every time he says inflation, we're going to get a wick down. TP1 is about 65 points. So there's a 1-to-1 R&R. TP2 is 3-to-1 risk and reward. And TP3 for this is about a 5-to-1 R&R. So let's see what we get here. I'm going to put my stop loss at 750 just to give it room to breathe. I don't want spread or any of that to get in the way of the trade. So 750, I'm putting this manually on my phone.
In their SCP forecast. I think there may also just have been, remember, this is 12 days ago. You know, we're trying to assess something that just is so recent. And it's people, you know, it's very difficult. There's so much uncertainty. So December was a good place to start, and we wound up with very similar outcomes for December. And but you know, in a way, the data in the first part, the first 5 weeks of the intermediate period,
3-to-1 and 5-to-1. And so I'm entering here because this is the best location that we're going to get for an entry. But yeah, it does look like it's flying. And if it does, that's why we use risk management.
Or was there a concern that there would be some sort of economic contagion or financial contagion from the failure of these banks?
Personally, I don't want to buy this late in the trend, but we're just kind of monitoring this thing and looking for those opportunities.
It's 100% certainty that there will be independent investigations and outside investigations and all that. So we welcome when a bank fails their investigations, and of course we welcome that. So we'll be watching all those things. Policy to bring inflation down to 2%. We'll find ourselves at that place. What's conducting is try to understand how that happened and try to understand how we can do better and what policies we need to change. I mean, one thing is the speed.
Can we also talk about how accurate that target was? Look at this, 32,370. Come on. All right, now I'm extending my TP because I didn't set a physical one. I am extending my TP down to 32,250, but this is where you guys should be taking partials.
Simon Urbanovich with The Economist. Thank you very much. Sir, you stated twice today that all depositors' savings in the banking system are safe. Are you saying that de facto deposit insurance covers all savings? Shouldn't Congress have a say in that?
And we're prepared to use those tools. And I think depositors should assume that their deposits are safe. It depends on whether so recessions tend to be non-linear. We're very focused on getting inflation down. Because we know in the longer run that is the thing that will most benefit the people we serve. That's how we can have a long.
He didn't say anything. He said, well, we're in the process. And if we continue on this route, then we will be in the process of a soft landing. Yeah, thanks. If we don't crash, then we're going to land softly. Thanks, dude.
And I guess there were 6 of them. So.
And getting to the series.
So I
have specific thoughts on that.
Well, I'd see if I did, I wouldn't share them because I really
savage.
This review is going on, and you know, I want nothing other than us to find out what happened and why, figure out what we can do to do better, and then implement those changes. That's all I want. It's for me to be.
All right, so there's a good chance this candle wicks back up from here. Then this is going to be an area where it just ends up wicking back up and just kind of going sideways. And then we can short from up here during London.
As I mentioned,
I lost a few today. The third one is making up for it.
We're really not seeing any sense there. Sorry, then the question before that was, just give me a.
All right, it's either going to stall here or it'll stall down here. And then we can come and pick back up during London session. So you may lose a trade. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. Ladies, gents, another incredible stream. Peace.